How are you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton. I'm here to talk about my spring TBR. I want to preface, I don't think these are books that fall under a spring category. They're not springy. Yeah, really none of them are. I don't think. There's about 10, 12. So basically I wanted to share with you all some of the books that are really high on my radar that I do want to get to sooner rather than later, and also share some upcoming vlog video plans that I have that include these books. So I thought that would be fun. The majority of these are part of my physical TBR. Some of them have been on there for a really long time. But I did want to start with new releases that I'm eyeing in spring. And I'm counting spring as March through June. At least that's what it is really in Minnesota. Yeah, so let's get into it. The first book that comes out April 9th, I'm really excited for it. I've already talked at length about this in my other videos, so I'm just going to pop it up here really quick, and I can't wait to read it. It's The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. It's another adult fantasy leaning release, and until I get another installment of Alex Stern, this will have to do, even though I am really excited about it. The cover is so sick, and the premise, like a historical fiction fantasy set during the Spanish Golden Age, like sign me up. And the second book that I'm really looking forward to reading, because I just read the first one, I just want more, is Court of Wanderers. This is book number 2 in I think the Reaper series it's called, by Rin Chupeco. This is going to be a duology, so this is going to be the final book, and I loved Silver Under Nightfall, so I hope I'll love this one. I'm getting a little nervous, and I know I shouldn't do this to myself. Looking at Goodreads reviews, early Goodreads reviews, there's like a little bit over 100. Most of them aren't very good, and I'm just nervous, but I'm still gonna pick it up. I'm still gonna read it because I really love the first one. I will be bummed. I will be bummed because that stinks. That one, and I think those are the only two like main books that I really have on my radar. But let's get into the physical TBR for this. Paperbacks from Hell by Grady Hendrix. So I had an idea to pick a few of these books that are mentioned in here and read them for a vlog, because some of them just sound crazy. Oh, and I just opened it up to that one I actually plan on using. Like I said, this is more for me to read down my physical TBR, but I did have to order one book from Thrift Books. This is before I put my book buying ban in effect, which is towards the end of February. I've only been on my book buying ban for couple weeks, and woo-wee, some of these videos y'all have coming out, it's just keep adding it to my want to buy list. Anyway, so one of the books I'll be reading is Let's Go Play at the Adamses by Mendel W. Johnson, and it's supposed to be like real dark. Most of these books described in here are like sound really. That's the plan for that reading vlog. I'll be reading 3 books that I pick out of this book. There's, God, it has to be over 200 mentioned in this book. Maybe 300 out of this. I just picked ones that I owned or were the most interested in. So, really excited about that. This is a really cool book, by the way. If you like Grady Hendrix or just have any interest in horror books or horror in general, or art involved with posters or book covers, this is really great. I love this. I'm so glad I bought this. So that's number 1. This I'm so excited for because I just got it in the mail and I want to read it immediately. The author did like this limited early release, which he signed all the books, and that is All the Fiends of Hell by Adam Neville. I read Last Days towards the end of last year and I loved it. It actually really freaked me out. So when I heard he had a new release coming out that was more like an alien horror post-apocalyptic, sign me up. As soon as he said he was going to do early releases, I was like, hell yeah. He signed it. Woo! And I'm going to be reading this very, very soon. I don't think I've read an alien horror in a bit, so this is like super fun, and I love post-apocalyptic, so, and yeah, I really enjoyed Last Days. It actually freaked me out a lot. His writing, there's some things that he wrote that were so vividly described that I could see it playing in my head like as a movie, and it was so cool. So that's on the list. And my next vlog idea, which is probably going to be coming up sooner than the other ones that I'm going to mention, is I want to read, like most of you all, I watched Katie Coulson's Best of Booktubers 2023 video, and if you haven't, what are you doing? What are you doing? That is a masterclass in editing. The amount of work and passion that went into that video is insane. She's such an amazing creator. I love all of her videos. So I was gonna plan to pick a few books that I haven't read off of that list that Katie provided. I think it was 15? 15. Some that I might get to. There's, again, 15 books. I have read some of them, but not all of them. But the ones I haven't read that I own is the first one being Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This is a very divided book. I've seen people either love this or hate it. I've not read R.F. Kuang. I have the Poppy War that I also haven't read on my shelf. It's about the dark side of the publishing industry. These two female writers, one who hasn't had a lot of success and the other one who has had a ton of success. The one who's had a ton of success dies in front of the other, and she steals her manuscript and wants to publish it for herself, even though she is not of Asian descent. And it just sounds like some really bad stuff happens in this. And I've just heard it's like really fast paced and you can't put it down. So I'm excited because I really do want to read R.F. Kuang. I did want to start with the Poppy War, but decided to pick this up. It just sounds really sinister and snarky and stuff I love in books. The other book that was part of BookTube's Best was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I actually bought this for the Reading Romance vlog, and there's a few others that I picked up before, but I do want to get to this. I've heard it's just really sweet and amazing, and I didn't know that she's from Minnesota, and she has a book coming out, a new release that's set in Minnesota, and I'm just like, oh, that's really cool, it's exciting, because I love living here. I honestly don't even know what this is about. I think there's a small town guy, has a farm, there's a little baby goat, and she's a doctor, or part of a long line of doctors, so that their worlds are very, very different. Kind of starts out as like Friends to Romance, I think. Maybe? I don't know actually, but I do want to read this. I probably should have read these before I started this video. Forgive me. Next is Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I have heard nothing but amazing things about this book. This was on so many of my friends, IRL friends, tops of the list, and also a lot of booktubers I follow and love. And it just sounds so sweet and cozy, and I know it's more of a Princess of the Bride retelling, but more through Buttercup's perspective, which is great. I love when they flip. I love flip perspectives. It's more seafaring, but there's not really sea, there's spores. I'm like, sounds so cool. And this will be my first Brandon Sanderson. I do have the first Mistborn book, but I don't think I'm going to get to that before this. So that was the idea for that vlog. And then at my IRL book club, we will be reading The Bandit Queens in April. And again, I love Allison Page's vlogs a lot, and this was one of her. Hi Mac, are you being noisy boy? Are you being a noisy boy? Are you gonna be quiet so I can finish this video? Thank you for sitting. And she mentioned how much she loved this. Premise sounded so intriguing and more up my alley, and she loved it so much and we have really similar tastes, so I thought I'd pick it up. Can you stop? Mr. Drags Your Feet. So this is about a woman named Geeta who 5 years ago her husband disappeared. The entire village where she lives thinks that she has something to do with it. And Geeta doesn't really correct them. She's kind of okay with it being ambiguous and her being like the main suspect or talk of the town, and then other women start to come to her with help getting rid of their husbands or problems. So it just sounds really fun. It's like really witty characters, and I don't know, I love that. I think it's cool. And I love this cover. Because it was one of the first books I read this year and I'm still thinking about it. Gina Bryn Thorne, I thought I would pick up her YA release, A Studying Drowning. I also have The Wolf and the Woodsman, but I think before I get back into that universe and how dark and gritty that is, I want to start here because I've heard very lovely things about this, and it's so pretty. I love this cover so much. And the dark academia and like the competition aspect, more of a fairy tale. I love books that have to do with books or authors. I think that's one of my favorite things to read about, so that's why I'm picking this one up first. Alright, this is the last new release that I'll be picking up for my spring TBR. It is Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin. I have not read her. I've had her other book on my radar forever, but I can't find the copy I want. That's so bratty, but I want a specific copy of it. I want this one, and I can't find it anywhere that's not less than $70 hardback currently. I mean, if it's paper, I find paperback, that's fine. It's fine. But I just love this cover so much more than this cover. So that's why I want to get. I'm waiting. I don't even know if I'll like the book, but I think I will, just based on what I've heard from my friends, other creators I follow who have talked loads about her work. So this is about, what's her name? Enid. This is about Enid, who's a really paranoid, anxious woman. Can relate. She's obsessed with space and black holes, and she has a big phobia of bald men and being followed, and this is kind of her reconnecting with her sisters, I think, and just living her life a little bit differently. She sounds like a really fun character to read. I like books about women struggling or being a little different. I like weird girl books. I think this is a weird girl book. I haven't read it, obviously. I think it's a weird girl book. I like weird girl books, so I think I'll like this. Alright, and the last three, these have been on my physical TBR for so long that if I don't get to them by this spring or this year, I just have to unhaul them. Like, I can't have them. Why do I do this to myself? Okay, another issue I've been having, or another thing that I've noticed I haven't been doing a great job of, is I have it's actually right back there, it's enormous, my 1001 books to read before you die. I've only read one book out of the 25 that I wanted to get through this year. One. So, a book that I actually own that's on that list. I actually own a lot of the books that are on that list that I have not read. My TBR is, I don't want to talk about it. H is for Hawk is in that book. And this is more of a memoir, which I used to love reading memoirs. It's been so long since I've read a memoir. Is it a memoir or is it just... So this is a memoir. This is a memoir about the author Helen MacDonald, whose father passes away and he was an accomplished falconer. Wow, how can I add that to my resume? Falconer. And she's been really captivated by hawks since her childhood growing up with her father, but has never really... She's always been a little afraid to go after this, I don't even want to call it a hobby, an interest. But there's a hawk that's called, what's it called? A goshawk? I might be pronouncing that wrong. It's apparently one of the hardest hawks to work with because they're very temperamental and restless, and she sees herself in this ghost hawk, so she sets out to train it. It's more of an exploration of grief, working with this hawk and getting over her father's death. And I'm drawn to memoirs that explore grief, or writing that explores grief. That's something that I've been interested in writing about. With my own family. Yeah, it's not a long book, and I don't have an excuse not to read it. This has been on my TBR for so freaking long. I need to sit down and read this book because I have a feeling I'll really love it. And the next book that's one of my TBR for way too long is Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. I read Shuggie Bain when it came out, and it was my favorite book of that year. I think it was 2020. Loved it. It was so heart-shattering, earth-shattering, amazing writing, like, just blew me away. And this is his following release. I think he's such a stunning writer, and it's like, I could not pick this up, but I haven't read it yet, and it's been a couple years, I think, since this came out. And this is more, again, like the working class of Ireland and a dangerous love between two men in a time period that won't let them be them and love each other openly. And the main character, Mungo, and his journey being a gay man and growing up and just figuring out his life and how he can be who he wants to be in this world. Yeah, again, it's so pretty too. Like, oh, there's an autograph. I think this is going to break me like Shuggie Bain did, but I love torturing myself. I love just digging the knife in. So, and the last book is a nonfiction book that was sent to me by the publisher years ago. And if I don't read it, I need to unhaul it. I read one nonfiction book last year. I would like to change that this year because I do like it. I do like reading nonfiction. It's just not... It fell down the rungs after I got into reading more horror and fantasy. To say nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland. This is about the Troubles, which I don't know a ton about, and I'm interested to learn more about it. I've heard like his writing reads a lot like fiction. Just how he writes is more, it's not really... The problem I have with some nonfiction is it reads more like a textbook, and I get really bored, and I fail to pay attention if it's not presented to me in a certain way. But this, I've heard, is just really, really well done. And it's about something I don't really know a ton about and I want to learn more about. Again, on my TBR for way too long, and I need to get to it. But that is my spring TBR. I suck at sticking to one, but since some of them are related to videos, I really hope that I can at least knock quite a few books off my physical TBR, as well as get some new releases. So, yeah. Thank you so much for sitting through. A lot of that was rambly. Thank you so much for sitting through all of it. Stupid bus. But thank you so much for watching all of that chaos. I would love to know what books you have on your spring TBR. Have you read any of the books I mentioned? Love to know what's on your spring TBR. Is there a book you're really hoping to get to during the next few months? Are there any releases you're really excited about? Let me know down below. And if you don't know what else to say, please leave the tulip emoji or your favorite flower emoji down below. And while you're down there, go ahead and subscribe. I would really appreciate the support. I love being here and interacting with you all. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for clicking, and I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!